MJ, you're first. Congrats on being first. Well, howdy. I'm still doing behind the scenes things. So I'm just going to start talking while I keep doing those behind the scenes things. Because you can hear me, I think. Oh, boy. Okay. All right, I ended up not talking. Hi, MJ. What's up? It's your boy, me. Um, well, I had a different plan today, and then when I was out shopping, because I always go out shopping just to see, just in case we get lucky, I happened across this, so we're making something with this. Um, lamb shoulder chops. They were four, just about $5. Just about five, four and some change. I think there's two of them in here. We're only going to use one if there are two. Um, so that something plans. Yeah, that's the plan. I grabbed a turnip. When I saw the lamb, I grabbed a turnip because I was like, sure, let's put two and two together. Two being lamb and two being turnip, and they add up to something. I also got discount broccoli. I never get broccoli in the discount bin. This time we got discount broccoli. It's over here in the other room. We're also going to use up peppers. I got one of the dollar bags, and it's just chock full of broccoli. So we got a ton of broccoli. I don't know why it was in the discount bin. Looks perfect. We're also going to grab a pepper because we're going to need to use up some peppers. We still got a backlog of peppers. Grab a nice orange pepper. Slide this over. So I'm kind of riffing. I think we're in the realm of a stew. I said curry because maybe we're going to go in the realm of spices and use like curry techniques. I don't know if we're going to go for full on like Indian curry flavors, but curry techniques. We could toss in one of those Japanese curry cubes as like a thickener, a stock cube base thing. That stuff's over here as well. Let's see, apples and honey flavor. This stuff. We got some of those left. That's a decent base without like overwhelming us with spices, with the like strong Indian spices, which means we could still control our spices and take them back in the other direction. We could make this sweet. Um, I kind of wanna pan fry the turnip, which has me thinking I'll make like a meat gravy out of the meat and serve it over the top. What? Oh, that's inside the plastic, I guess. Um, Weird texture there. Possibly why this one was in the discount bin, because it's got a weird looking texture. It does look like there's two of them in there, so we will probably only need the one. I don't eat lamb a lot because it's kind of pricey, but I like it. It's got a good, strong flavor. It responds well to strongly spiced stews and that sort of thing. So curry is actually a great place to use lamb because it's got strong spices. It's pumpkin spice season. Pumpkin spice can also go really well with lamb. That's we've talked about this 1,000 times, I think. Moroccan, Turkish, into Greek, over into like Middle Eastern flavors. We'll put that type of spice blend with, so it's a lot of the Mediterranean actually. We'll put that kind of spice blend with strong meats like goat or mutton or lamb or game, because they work really well. So I'll customize the flavor ideas as we plow through this. I'm not sure where I want to start, except that we're going to use these ingredients I've got out. Plus, we're going to need onion. We're going to need carrot. Do I have any celery? Ooh, I have bok choy. Scallion. Do I have any celery? I don't. Cabbage. What are you? Different scallions. The bok choy is looking a little worse for wear. We might want to throw that in there just so I can use it up. Oh, I do have some really, really bad. Ooh, okay. Well, I have a celery that got buried, and I found it in the bottom, and it looks like I shouldn't have buried it. That's not good. That's not ideal. What's in this bag? All right, I'm just rummaging through the fridge now. Beets. Ooh, what if we throw in? What if we do beet? Beet, turnip. Beet, turnip, lamb curry. How do we fit the broccoli in there? Okay. The bok choy is getting a little wilty and yellow around the edges, so we're probably going to try to use that up. This bag contains the white carrots, but also some golden beets. And I've got to use them somehow. We can also use the white carrots. So that bag should just probably be out so that I can leverage it. Okay. I think I know where we're heading with this. Get out an onion. Garlic's up there. Probably don't need a potato if we've got turnips and beets and carrots. That's 3 roots. In fact, we're looking at starch, but I kind of want to serve this with a pasta now. That'd be a little bit weird. And I was thinking about trying a roux with this, for which I would need to render some of the fat out of the meat. I did an internet check before we started, and everything is green across the board. Signal is the strongest I've seen it in a while. So if anything happens, I blame Spectrum, because everything is A-okay on my end at this stage. I actually suspect I had some thoughts after the fact about what happened on Friday, and we were good at the start, and it went bad afterwards. And I wonder if it wasn't that Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight that just chewed up the network. That it wasn't my end, but it was the network just getting gummed up. Because When I started having problems was when their pre-show started, and it was an mostly internet fight. Also, it was a joke. We can get into that if you want to, but I thought it was absolutely a farce. I didn't even watch it, but I thought it was a farce. Anyways, we're going to get these guys out of here. We're going to start with the meat, because I think lamb is quite a fatty meat. And it would be nice to use some of that fat to get us started with the old pan. I don't think I want both of these. We're going to get them out so we can look at them, and they're not going to live in this package now that I've broken the seal on it regardless. This is that same brand, that same farm that does the veal we've had a couple of times. I've looked into them. They've got some pretty above board practices. That's probably enough. So I will have to deal with the other one separately. There's a little bone in here. Actually, is that a bone? Okay, there's two bones. There's a bone there, and there's this Y-shaped bone here, which is actually a cross-section of the shoulder. Because this is it was marketed as a shoulder chop. But near as I can tell, it's just the same thing that we've used. It's the same cut as a chuck steak or a pork shoulder steak. And since I'm not doing it as a single piece, I want to get that bone out of there. Well, I want to get that bone out of there too, but in particular, this bone is just kind of an annoyance. So if you're squeamish about meat, I would say come back in a minute. Personally, I would say that if you eat meat, you should not be squeamish about this part of meat. Because this is where it comes from before you eat it. And be sure not to cut into your fingers while you're doing this. Trying to get it off the bone with as little loss as possible. I don't care if it gets a little bit mangled because we're going to chop it further regardless. Okay. No bone in that guy. I have found a source for goat, but it is not cheap. But if I come across a goat recipe that I really, really want to try, perhaps as a special occasion, I have actually located some goat. And then there's these two little, what are these bones? They must be part of the leg, no? Big weird shaped thing. don't know my anatomy quite well enough to tell you what bone I am removing now. But given that that's a shoulder, this is probably the top of the leg, front leg. Well, got most of it out. See if we can clean that up a little bit, or if it's just too gnarly. It might just be too gnarly. I think that might just be too gnarly. If you're making a soup or something, throw those in for sure. Don't think I'm going to save them at this point. We just want to get the bones out. And then I'm going to chop this guy up a little bit. Get him browning and rendering in the pan so that we will have some of that nice fat to work with for everything else. Liz. How's it going, Liz? Welcome, welcome. What's up? My hands are all goopy. We are going to be riffing quite heavily today because this is not so much a plan as a concept of an idea. I hear that's the latest thing. You're exhausted. You took out the trash, cleaned some of the fridge, trying to figure out a simple dinner that won't take the rest of your energy. Well, what have you got on hand? Maybe we can brainstorm some ideas that won't take much effort. I'm assuming you're trying to avoid takeout, because that would be or delivery. That would be the easiest. Well, take a look around. For inspiration, or just to find out what you got. Because you can't really make a plan unless you know what you got. I run into that all the time. I'll be like, ooh, this is great. I'll bring it home, and then I'll have none of the things to go with it. And I'll have to either go back out or improvise. Well, I'll be here cooking away. We are starting some lamb. I got lamb out of the discount bin. Lamb shoulder out of the discount bin, which is what this is here. We just deboned it, diced it up. We're going to throw it in our pan, render out some fat. I'm going to use the fat to make a roux. I think we're making a stew thing. A stew thing. Something. We're making something. We're in the realm of something. We have a couple different kinds of roots, some lamb meat, broccoli, bok choy, pepper, onion, and that makes me think strong spices, which makes me think curry, but it doesn't have to be. Curry flavors. We don't have to lean into turmeric, coriander, that kind of realm of flavors. We can lean into European style warm spices. Maybe I should pull up some references. Can of corned beef hash, sourdough bread, tomato slice. I mean, that sounds good. Corned beef hash, tomato, sandwich. Maybe toast the bread just a little bit for some texture. Canned corned beef hash already has, usually I think, already has onion and a little bit of potato in it, right? I don't get canned corned beef hash so much, so I can't quite remember what's already in it. I'm going to wash my hands because I want to do some time. I'm going to put the meat in this pan, and then I'm going to wash my hands because I want to do some typing. Potato onion powder. Oh, I guess the pan was hot because it sizzled immediately. And we're not using the bones today. We are going to put the bones in there to render off a little bit, but I'm going to pull them out and throw them away later. We're washing our hands so that I can touch things. I wish I could find mutton, but there's just can't be had in the old U.S. of A. Land of the free. Unless you want mutton, then you got to pay out the nose for it. What was I looking up? I was looking up lamb curry and lamb gravy, because we're going to be somewhere in that realm. Oh right, I stumbled across this one in my reading briefly. Keep that one up. Don't want a video. Lamb curry. With rice. What is this one? It's Mangalorean. Not Mandalorian. Mangalorean. Mutton gravy. Which also comes from India. Lamb, ginger, garlic, cinnamon, chili poppy, coriander, cumin, onion, coconut. Not coconut milk, but shredded coconut. Interesting. I don't have that. A potato. Okay. I think we just riff. Interesting idea. I think we just riff. The meat does not need to be cooked through at this stage. We're looking for some browning because there's no other way to get browning other than a hot, dry pan like this. Normal value. Thanks for the subscription. Thanks for the Prime. Wow, welcome on in. I mean, welcome in again because this is 4 months, but pile in. We're just barely getting started here. I'm still in the brainstorming phase, and I think we're going to be doing mostly riffing. just want to get the lamb here browned and some of the fat rendering out of it. Probably going to want some butter. Don't think we're going to get quite enough out of that, especially if I do it. Yeah. Do we do? Do we do? Do we do? I kind of like the idea of serving this on pasta. I don't know if that makes any logical sense. What do I have for pastas? We have orzo. That would be kind of a cheat. We've got penne, rotelle, rigatoni. I don't think we're gonna be quite ragout enough for like a rigatoni. I think we're in the chunky realm here. I mean, we're in the chunky realm here, but I think we're gonna stay in the chunky realm. What else do we want? What else do we want? Beef, turnips. Let's grab one of these beets and take a look at them. Slide to the right. These golden beets. There's only a couple of them. Gold beet turnip. That's a big turnip. Onion. That browned off. Deglaze the pan. We have some beef stock. So we can use stock in the pan. I like the idea of a roux, so we need the flour tower out, but only for a little bit. Okay. I slid this over, but I'm going to slide this back because I think I want to take the meat out real soon. Especially these bones. I think the bone pieces are just going to get straight dunked. I put something on top of the trash. I'll straight dunk them later. Okay. Get that butter buttering. Get the beet beating. Where's my peeler? Peeler, there you are. Oh my. Heat off. And off the heat. We don't want to just completely destroy that. Look at this beet. Dark orange on the outside, but it's like lemony yellow on the inside. Still leaves color on you, even when it doesn't have red. It just leaves yellow. Damn it. Damn it. Oh, I gotta rinse it off. I almost cut my finger too. I thought I was being careful. Wow, it got smoky in here. Basically cutting this like an apple at the moment. Take that little spot off, and I'm going to take that little spot off because I'm not sure what they are. Because I'm not sure what they are. Okay. Looks good. Beets are quite sturdy. So I think it'll hold up to some serious cooking, probably. The other half of the meat is still over here. I haven't done anything with it. Should have been prepping this while the meat was in. What keeps moving over there? My panel keeps like twitching, and I'm not sure what it's doing. Because it does it in the corner of my eye, and then I look over and it looks the same. Okay, the beet. Did it again. What are you doing? Top and tail our beet. Or turnip. We just did the beet, this is the turnip. I guess I'm on a turnip kick because we did a turnip just recently, and I haven't done turnips, I think, possibly ever before that. They're tasty though, and they're surprisingly very easy to work with. They're a rather friendly thing, and they're so unique. They don't really taste like any other root. They kind of have a radish smell to them, but then they don't have that spice of the radish. I don't think we need the other half of this, actually. Everything's falling today. Yeah, that's... Okay, we'll get them started in our pan. Oh, should we... We should. I keep second guessing myself and then going back and re-second guessing myself again. We're putting a second tablespoon of butter in the pan. We're putting the heat back on. We're going to melt our stuff. We're going to build our roux now. While the butter's melting, I'm going to prep the onion. We're going to throw the onion in there with it. We're going to build the roux around the onion so as to get the onion a little bit more of a cook. Assuming I can get the onion in there before the butter starts to go brown. Because then we can deglaze with some stock, and I can hear the butter sizzling. These onion papers have defeated me once again. Okay, we just need things in there to take up some of the heat so that it doesn't burn our oh heck, we might not even get to the flour. We might trust that these things are starchy enough to do it without. Shoot. Why am I so clumsy today? So over on the stove, what I did is I just threw the beets and turnips directly into our lamb fat and butter. And they are both quite sturdy starches, so they can handle some robust cooking. So I'm going to let them go ahead and take care of the pan while I deal with my onion. I might even pull them out before I do other things. Where's the skin on this? I'm feeling thwarted by things today. You ever feel thwarted? Just trying to do normal things and then, thwarted. Flamingo, hi. How's it going? Happy Manananan Day. We are in full crazy weird riff mode today. Not terrible. Oh, happy today. Tuesday for some, Monday for others. Chaos for MJ. We've got beets, golden beets, and turnip in the pan here. Mostly because I did not want the butter to burn while I was doing other things. Butter and lamb fat. There's lamb fat in there because we started out by cooking the lamb and rendering some of the fat. I think we're gonna take those roots out of there. I keep stopping and thinking. I think we're going to take those roots out of there with the slotted spoon. Because they don't need to be cooked to death, because they're going to get recooked. The slotted spoon means I don't take all the delicious fats with me, which is good because we need them to build a roux. Because I really want to do a roux. What I should have on the side is a gumbo recipe. Because that's kind of what I'm hybridizing, gumbo and curry. We made gumbo once before. Yeah. Make the roux. First thing, make the roux. You know what this calls for? More butter. That is too hot. Okay. More butter, that is too hot. Yes. That was perhaps even too much flour? Huh. The same amount I would use. I probably lost a little bit of butter to the what's it called? Potatoes. The roots over here. No, it's not like it's lumping together. It's just... It'll be fine. We can add... roux doesn't have to be butter. You can always add just like a little blorp of something else. And olive oil's tasty, so we'll use some olive oil. Your roux needs to have enough fat that there isn't any flour left out. But not so much that it's swimming. So we have a recipe for an Indian mutton curry and New Orleans gumbo. Which is just wrong. A blorp, you know, that's that sound that the bottle makes when you tip it. It goes bloop. One of those. That's actually what I meant when I said that. One bloop. We're gonna throw in our onions before this gets to the dark brown stage, and then we're gonna deglaze with our beef stock. We're gonna bring the temperature back up because it is now too cold. Tomato sandwich, mayo, banana pepper. I do love a tomato sandwich. There is some burning happening here. We absolutely cannot delay. I can smell it. So onions go in to get them started. We will crush off some garlic because we're going to want that to go in moments before the beef stock. Protein shake. Sometimes that's all you need. For example, I had coffee with cream for breakfast. That was my entire breakfast. That's my entire breakfast most days, actually. We definitely have burned something onto the bottom. I don't think it's the roux. I think it's starches from the... Maybe it starches from the roots. It actually might be proteins that were on there from the lamb right at the start. Okay, we gotta get this. Gotta get this garlic crushed into a little dish before anything burns, because it's gonna try to burn. Okay, good enough. I am making an executive decision there. We're going to deglaze that pan with some alcohol. This alcohol. That was Marsala wine, which we've used before recently in our Croatian thing. And it is going to rapidly thicken because we have a very nice brown roux in here. Which means we probably need to go in with the garlic real fast. This is what happens when you go in with no plan. We do need this to stop smelling like it's got alcohol in it before I add anything else, or we won't lose that alcohol. Um, Fairlife Core Pour protein shakes, chocolate milk. I mean, I no shade on people who would drink those protein shakes. It's not for me, but I understand not everyone does the stupid things I do. Okay, now we're proper deglazing the pan with our stock. Beef stock. And heat up slightly so that it comes to a simmer. But most importantly, we just need to scrape along the bottom so there's nothing stuck down there anymore. A little bit of it's burnt, so we're going to have a little bit of some black flecks. What we really want are the bits that aren't burnt, which will dissolve into our broth. I always forget when I'm deglazing a pan that if I've already done a roux in that pan, my deglazing liquor is just going to immediately thicken in that roux, because that's what roux does. It thickens liquids. I literally forgot that was going to happen when I did this. Because again, no plan. We're scraping smooth on the bottom. We can't see it because it's still too liquidy, but we're going to cook this down a little bit as we go. So that's fine. And I'm going to put our meat back in as well, because the meat is definitely not fully cooked. And it'll be tough if we don't. The meat wants to be cooked tender. And I just realized that I still had those bone pieces in there. So let's grab those. I'm gonna make a decision to leave the bone pieces in to extract their flavors. Bones have good flavor, but they're not terribly good eating on account of being hard. You know, like bone hard. No plan sounds like your life. You too? Okay, do I want to put peppers in there? What does Gumbo say? Brown the meat in a separate pan. Make the roux. Add the meat. Deglaze the pan. Put in... Their meat is sausage, so they don't need to slow cook it. Veggies, pour... Oh, they want to add the roux to the pot. Yeah, we're doing one pot thing. Of course, they're doing a gumbo, so they've got all gumbo flavors in there. Okay. I'm going to throw in some unmeasured spices just to, start doing stuff. Feel like I'm accomplishing something. Don't mind that. About that much clove. A little bit more than that of allspice. This one screws off. Oop. About that much cinnamon. I think cinnamon clove allspice. Go really well with lamb, specifically. Ugh. Those holes are too small. About that much ginger. Ginger's gotten a little bit lumpy. I may have held it over the steam too many times. And nutmeg? Well, you know how I feel about nutmeg. I like it. Can't even see how much is going in because it's dissolving. Well, not dissolving, but like disappearing into the broth as I grate it. So whatever feels good for nutmeg. A little bit of MSG. We're kind of hitting pumpkin spice flavor. Should we also hit with curry flavor? Do I have some coriander? We want some black pepper. Ooh. Chuck in a bay leaf. I'm also going to take this opportunity to chuck in all of our roots. Yeah, nut meat. Put in all the nut meat you want. In fact, I encourage it. Okay, temperature comes back down because we want to do a simmer, not a boil. Still dealing with broccoli. We have no carrot in there as well. We can do carrot. We don't have anything orange, although I was going to throw in a bell pepper. Screw carrots. No carrots. Scrape a little bit of garlic off my knife. Just get it in that pan. Join me over here. Take the sticker off. We've forgotten to do that a couple of times too. Look at this pepper. What's wrong with this pepper? Something is wrong with this pepper because this pepper was in a bag with 5 other peppers for $1 being thrown in the, get out the door. I don't understand that store. I just actually don't understand that store putting so many peppers and bananas and a couple other things, but a lot of the time it's just a ton of peppers and bananas that look pristine in their discount bin. I mean, I'm not complaining, I just don't understand. Bookwoman, hi. How's it going? What, as the kids say, is up? We're doing a thing. We've veered in the direction of gumbo. But it's got lamb in it, so it's like, and pumpkin spice, and also a beet and a turnip. So I don't know what it is. We're about to throw a bell pepper in there. It's a sweater vest. Oh, my apron slid down a little bit. It's an Argyle sweater vest found at a thrift store. I thought it looked great. The shirt underneath is an old one. No, I like the look of it too. Garlic. I've been into vests lately, and with the weather being cold, having another layer is also kind of nice. Yeah, okay. Back over here. Put our bell pepper in our thing. Our food stuff. It's a food. It's probably going to be edible. Can you put broccoli in a curry? Or does it kind of fall apart? I ask because I have some broccoli. Okay, the roots can go there. We don't have the bok choy. This needs some green as well. If that bell pepper had been green, that would have solved it, but I picked an orange one for reasons unknown. I still feel, if we had some cavatappi, that would be the shape. I guess penne is the next closest. Because also I still have it in my head that I want to serve this with pasta, which is maybe not the best decision. Well, this is going to have to stew for a while because we're running this until the meat is tender. I'm actually tempted to slap a lid on that, put it in the oven, and have it like braise. It already seems like it's a little on the thick side. We did make quite a robust roux for it. I also just don't know what this is going to taste like. Like, I know what the individual things in it taste like, but I haven't combined them like this ever. So let's actually taste the thing and see what we're working with. See if we need to play around with it at all. It's thick. Really coats your mouth. Very lamb forward, and then it kind of fades out to not much. It needs salt. For one thing, it needs salt. Which makes sense because I haven't added any salt up to this point. So, some salt. When you put a bunch of flavors in and you taste it, and you can't tell that those flavors are in there, it probably doesn't have enough salt to wake those flavors up. Spices can only do so much on their own. They need some salt to make them sing. Yes, okay. That must have been unsalted beef stock. Fat-free beef stock. Doesn't say it's unsalted, but it must be low sodium because it sure didn't bring any sodium to that party. That needs some more spices, and it needs to be a little bit less hot. Because I don't want to have to keep scraping the bottom. We might even add a little bit of water to it, thin it out while it bubbles away. Whilst it bubbles away. Half a cup of water, just to slow it down a little. Just to slow it down a scooch. I think it needs some more oomph. Felt like we put in a good amount of those spices, but they are dry spices, so which ones do I think it needs more of? We don't want the spices to be the main thing, but we don't want them to vanish. What about, we never used this guy. I'm going to put in some marjoram. By some I mean a heavy snow of marjoram. I don't know what marjoram is exactly, other than, a leaf. But it has kind of a savory smell to it. And let's give a slightly less heavy snow of tarragon. Which has a faintly licoricey smell to it. Ooh, hey, why not? I've got this. We can throw it in. Some dried mint. Why not? And if we're putting in mint, well, that means we can put in other stupid things. I don't have one on hand, in mind. I think I'm just hungry and I keep throwing stuff at it like, ooh, that sounds good. Ooh, that sounds good. Our two favorite powders, onion and garlic. Stir them in, get them washed off that one lump. Stir all that in. Give it, where did I put my tasting spoon? tasting spoon. Give it a taste, see what any of that did. The water made it less thick. Ooh, it tastes really nice. Complex. Savory, but in an interesting way. I'm going to move us to the back corner. We're going to reacquire the front burner for something else. I don't know why I have the idea of serving this with pasta, but I'm stuck on serving this with pasta, so we're doing that. Pasta. Also, I am going to chuck a lid on that guy. We can always reduce it a little bit later if we want to. Oh, I haven't even had the dashboard panel open this whole time. So, both women in particular, but anyone else who's gotten here a little bit late, what's for dinner? We were already talking about it with Flamingo and Liz, both opting for tasty, easy things. This whole thing I'm doing here, other than the noodles, I think, could have been a crock pot. You wouldn't have been able to build the roux and do all that sort of nice, that process, if you just all chucked it in a crock pot. But realistically, you could throw all of this in a crock pot, let it go for 4 hours, and then right at the end, grab some starch, one of these various starches I've got, chuck that in. Ooh! I just had a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I just had an idea. Because that Croatian pastisada had all that dried fruit in it. Remember that? I need to tighten up my... Looking at it, my apron is sagging all the way down here. It's supposed to be up here. Had all that dried fruit in it, and that gave it kind of just an interesting... an interest to it. I still have some of that dried fruit. I've actually been snacking on the figs and prunes in particular. So, how many figs I have left. But we could throw in a handful of like figs and dates. Yeah, there's still some in here. Slide over here. Join me. These guys. And they don't even all have stems on them. Because putting the dried fruit in was something I had not previously considered, and it worked out really deliciously. And part of what we do around here is learn. So once I've learned something, I should put it into practice. And not just immediately never do it again. I do want to chop them up a little bit more. I thought the pieces were a little bit too big, and I wanted the flavors to kind of meld more than they did that in the other thing. So chopping them up a little bit. Okay, figs. It'll give us some sweetness too, which is something we currently don't have in that mix. Even though I used a sweet wine to deglaze it, we definitely lost the sweetness in all the rest of the stuff I've done. Oh, and before I completely forget, it's already been kind of probably too much. Got the other lamb chop over here still has to get put away. I just kind of put it in the sink, like you really shouldn't do. Which means I've got another lamb shoulder section to play with for the future. Maybe I'll actually plan something out for this one instead of just aggressively riffing for an hour. It's only been an hour? It's only been an hour. Boy, I'm hungry. I think when I'm hungry, we get weird. I think when I'm too hungry, or, am hungry, things get kind of weird up in the kitchen because I just start like doing. These are medjool dates. I'm going to throw a couple of these in too. They are quite easy to pit out. And then I'm not going to go for the prunes. This specific package of dates was actually a gift from some viewers. Viewers like you. I got them from Voice in My Head and username that I'm blanking on. I like dates a lot. They're very, very tasty. Would get dates in the future. Oh, I know. I'm going to chop these up too. You know what? Oh, we're just kind of we're throwing stuff. We're definitely throwing stuff at the wall now. So you'll recall there were just sliced lemons in that pasta asada as well. Those, I was shocked by how tasty they were. I do not have a lemon to slice up. I do, however, in the vein of dried fruit, have dried sliced oranges that I made when I stumbled across a large bag of oranges in the discount bin. I have to find them. They're over there in the cupboard of stuff. I'm also really hungry, so everything tastes good. I should wash my hands, because I did just lick every finger twice. But I can throw some dried orange slices in there. They'll rehydrate, cook. My water's boiling, so we will throw in our pasta noodles. And you can watch the pasta noodles while I go and find those oranges. Oh, they're very easy to find. It took me a mere instant to find these oranges. Here they are. I put them in much too large a container. But dried oranges. So I guess we'll just grab a couple. They're just about they're edible, but kind of bitter on their own. But again, I was surprised the bitterness cooked out of the lemon. So I have no reason to think that won't happen here as well. Ooh, we have some fat pooling on the top of our stew, which I believe is a sign that the meat is rendering even more. I need to remember to keep an eye out for more dryable things. Like bananas. I should have dried some of those bananas. Remember those billions of bananas I was finding for a while? Actual literal billions. I didn't dry any of those. I should have dried some of them. We could have made banana powder. You know, powdered bananas. That sounds like a thing that I would make and then figure out how to use. It's probably a very good thickener, right? Bananas are kind of on the edge between starchy and sweet. It would probably behave like a potato flour, but sweeter. We'll keep an eye out for bananas. We'll try that the next time I find a batch of bananas. So I'll try that. I don't know that me dehydrating and making powders is very entertaining viewing. I can just report on the results. Okay, our stew, I guess, is going in a sweet direction, which is real strange. Wee Former, hi, welcome, welcome. I'm just open mouth brainstorming. There's no banana flour in the current thing. I'm speculating. Also, welcome. Hi, come on in. We're watching beneath this foam pasta boiling. Which I should push around to make sure it's not sticking to itself or the pot. It definitely was sticking. And in that pan, we have our main event, which is, what have I decided to call it? It's Indian gumbo, but it's lamb, and it has turnips in it. We definitely are somewhere in between a curry and a gumbo with this thing. I don't want to call it a combo. That doesn't sound good. And a gurry also doesn't sound good. That one sounds like a slur. It's probably an unnameable thing. And then after tasting it, I chucked in a bunch of dried fruit. So also we're off the beaten path. We're just off the beaten path right now. I'll tell you what happened. I was at the store and I found lamb shoulder for $5 and I was like, sure, I'll grab that. And so what we're doing right now is we're using lamb shoulder. There's lamb shoulder in there. And I didn't plot out a recipe for it. I just kind of did some vagaries and started cooking. And for some reason, I have my heart set on serving it with pasta, so we're also serving it with pasta. It needs to simmer over here until the lamb is tender. I don't want chewy pieces of lamb. And the beets are cooked. I think the beets are going to be the thing that is most resistant to cooking. Oh, also there's beets in. Golden beets, so it is not red. It is in fact a very brown shade of brown, like Pantone brown. I should put the flour tower away. We do not need it anymore. And I'm at this stage. I wanted to put some broccoli in it too because I found this bag of broccoli in the reduced thing, and it's just really good broccoli. But at this point, I'm not thinking I'm going to throw broccoli in there. So I don't know. We're riffing. We're riffing. A lot of foods you don't eat. Which ones? Beets, broccoli, lambs, figs, oranges. Oh, it's got pumpkin spice in it. I went with pumpkin spice instead of like curry spices as my spice base. And then added, some random things off the spot. We're really riffing. I did actually just add some random things off the spice rack. There's marjoram and tarragon and mint in it. Mint and lamb, that's a thing, I'm told. Oh yeah, there's oranges in it too. It's something. We're making sure it's not sticking to the bottom. So I don't know what to call it. We're using techniques for stews from 3 different parts of the world and kind of just doing them all. Now, stews aren't that different from each other, so it's not like we're, hybridizing wildly different cooking methods, but we're definitely not pinned it down. How does it smell? It's lamb forward, which I think means I want to taste it and make sure we're not having it being overpowered by lamb. It might actually need a little bit more spice. It's very coat the spoon. It's very coat your spoon thick. We actually had to add some water because it was getting too thick. It needs some more spices. Ooh. I do think it needs some more spices, but only a little bit. And some of the same ones we've already got. I'm going to add a little bit more nutmeg. I think I'm just going to add a little more nutmeg. It's got a... Oh, I need to think about how I can put words together that mean things to describe this, because it's distinct. It's doing something. We've got... got something. We've got something. It's Christmassy, but savory. You know what I mean by Christmassy, right? Get that nutmeg all up in there. The oranges are doing something. All that dried fruit has also made it, given it a sweetness. It needs, does it need a little bit of acidity? Let's give it just a sprinkle. Of vinegar. I don't want to make it sour, but I think it needs just a touch to kind of, you know, perk it up. We should not be boiling our spatula. We also probably don't need to keep cooking the heck out of those noodles. It has no heat to it. It has no like piquancy. I put some black pepper in, but I think we've lost that in everything else that's going on. So maybe just a tiny dash of cayenne. Not enough to make it spicy, but enough to like give it an edge. It's interesting. Christmassy in a really fascinating way. Look at those noodles. They all lined up. They all lined up because I wasn't stirring them properly. We're bringing out one of our old favorites. This kind of plate. As the pasta no longer wants to be here on this plate, it needs to go over there. And get broken up a little bit. Why pasta? I don't know. I felt like it. I actually think that why pasta is because one of the things I was looking up when I was doing preliminary research that I have almost entirely ignored. One of the things I looked up was served over pasta. It was a lamb gravy served over pasta. We didn't make that one. We certainly didn't make that one. But I guess that the pasta got stuck in my head. Pasta. We're boiling the spatula again. We can come back to the front. You guys can see what's going on a little bit better. We're looking for tender. The oranges have tenderized. The sauce. Oh, it's so thick. And lamby. If you don't like lamb, you will not like this. So, I'm sorry, weed former. Oops. Slamming doors. But if you don't like lamb, you will not like it. I'm boiling the spatula again. We need to check to see if the meat is tender. That's what I'm really waiting for. Also, there's these bones. They're going to have to come out. Not tender, tender. Not melt in your mouth tender. But it doesn't like fight back when you chew it. I would give it a little bit more time, actually, personally. We can think about, it needs something green, possibly just parsley or scallions on the plate. Not a fan of dark meats. Gotcha. I know a lot of people don't particularly like sheep meat. Lamb is on the milder side. Mutton tends to get really strong, and it can be quite a divisive flavor in general. I know people who are all about beef, love their beef, who will turn their nose up at this sort of gamier flavors like this. But yeah, dark meats definitely have more. Well, what they explicitly have is they have more myoglobin. That's what makes dark meat dark. Is myoglobin. Um, uh, how do you feel about dark meat chicken? Because dark meat, dark poultry meat also is dark because it has more myoglobin in it. So if it is in fact that, then that might be exactly what you're pinning down on. If it's not that, then it's probably just coincidence. There's something else in the meat that you're not liking that has nothing to do with the darkness. I'm not sure what we're gonna do. That wants to stew a little bit. It'll stew better in the lid with the lid on. Make sure it's not too hot. We don't want to burn the bottom. I kind of want to do both parsley and scallions on the top because we are kind of in between the places that would garnish with parsley and the places that would garnish with scallions. I also kind of want to put cheese on it, like grated parm, because that was so good with the pastisada. I was surprised how much the cheese elevated the pastisada. That I kind of want to do that again. Um, I don't rave about steak. When I can recognize when a good steak is good, when a really good steak is really good. Um, a really good steak, I think, is second string to really good seafood. Um, so it is down to sort of a personal taste thing. You just put parm on your chicken, but in big chunky shreds. I have the wedge, and my grater is this thing, which gives me really fine. I suppose I could attempt to grate it with the box grater and get like big flakes. That might be fun. That might be fun. We were going to pull some. Now, we were supposed to pull something out of the freezer today to, make some headway. But instead of that, I bought new meat and didn't pull something out of the freezer. Curses. I can appreciate good steak, but I think seafood, for the most part, good seafood kicks its ass. I went out to a dinner once with my parents, and on the menu they had some really fancy shit. They had a Wagyu steak. They also had sea bass. And we evidently decided to splurge because I ordered the Wagyu steak and my father ordered the sea bass. And I made the wrong choice, for sure. That sea bass was heaven. We tasted each other's thing. That sea bass was heavenly. The steak was quite good. The sea bass was heavenly. He also agreed. He tasted mine and was like, oh yeah, the sea bass is better. We have burned a little bit, so I'm going to do a quick scrape. We're probably at the point where I can consider serving. Also because if we thicken this anymore, I'm going to have to add more water to it because we're getting to the realm where it really is going to want to grab the pan. And with the sugars in those fruits, having no doubt dissolved into our roux, if it catches on the pan, which it has already done, it is likely to burn quickly, which it has not at this point done. So once I've got this all loosened off the bottom, I think we're going to do a serve and then a garnish. What time are we looking at? 1:44. I cut the meat quite small with the idea of I didn't want to have to cook for hours and hours. So yeah, I guess we're gonna slide into service. For which we need an actual scoop. And also we need to get the bones out of there. Okay. Our stew has been deboned. And I guess we will slide over and make a plate out of it. It's going to look like brown on noodles with orange bits in it. Hopefully that's good. Once again, I've made too much. Okay. I said box grater. Parm to attempt more of a chunky flake. So we will see what happens when I do that. That worked fine. They're not like flakes, they're more like strands, but the hard... Oh, it's steaming. Steaming hot. It should melt that cheese. If we did a fine shaving of cheese, it would have just vanished into there. Oops. It needs something green. Which is going to be a sprig of parsley on the side. I don't really want to chop the parsley over the top. And that's, I guess, the thing. I don't know what to call it. I don't have a name. It doesn't have a name. It lacks name. We're going to serve it toward the viewer, or toward the eater on this side, so that the parsley is sort of in the back corner. Okay, I guess I'll go take a picture, and then we'll come back and we'll taste it. I've been tasting it along the way, so I have a general idea of what I'm getting into. Come on, take the picture. There you go. Okay. I don't know what to call it. It is just kind of straight up riffing based on my prior knowledge of how stew works. There's quite a lot of that pastisada in here, for sure. The dried fruit, the turnip. But doing a dark roux and starting it out like a gumbo is definitely very different. An alcohol deglaze is very different. Warm, Christmassy spices are very different. So it's going to eat the same, but it's going to taste wildly different. Piece of lamb, piece of turnip. I think our beets lost their color. That's pepper. That was not turnip, that was beet. Well, when you bite into a beet, which I just did, it tastes like a beet. The beets still have their flavor. Once that's out of the way, it's a sweet, savory thing. The fruit gave it an interesting sweetness that I think goes with the spices. It almost makes me think like a spice cake, you know? Because there's no added sugar, it's just some dried fruit. But the sweetness from that, plus the spices that went in there, and the sort of warm, dark flavor of the roux, has taken us in a strange direction. Um, that one was turnip. The turnip is very soft. The beet actually had some bite to it. The turnip is less robust than the beet in terms of holding up to that long simmer. The lamb is not disappearing, but it's also not overwhelming. It has a little chew to it. It doesn't really fight you back when you bite into it, but it's not melt in your mouth tender. It's got a little bit of texture to it still. It still has that lamb flavor. Again, if you don't like lamb, you won't like this. It tastes like lamb. It tastes like there's lamb in it. You can't really avoid that unless you just completely drown it, which would be a waste of the lamb at that point. If you're going to completely drown out the flavor of something you've put in your food deliberately, then just don't put that thing in your food. Tiny fly. One tiny fly. Why are there tiny flies in whatever? Has appeared. This must smell good. Or gross. The oranges should be okay. Well, what we learned from the pastisada is that when you stew citrus, it leaches the bitterness out of it, and you can just eat it straight, which I just did with a piece of orange there. So it provides this fun citrusy chew, and it's got a little bit of that sort of I think we could have quartered those so they weren't full circles, and they'd be more distributed. I don't know that I can taste the figs or the dates directly, but they definitely were the source of all of the sweetness that I was talking about. Because there's no other sweet things in there other than I suppose the beets. But when I tasted it before adding the fruit and then now, there's a distinct sweetness that was not there before. And I said the sweetness is going really interestingly well with those warm spices. Because warm spices, like in a spice cake, like in a pumpkin pie, like in an apple pie, like in those sort of sweet spiced things, those warm spices go with sweet things. I don't think they go quite as well as they do with strongly flavored meats. What we've got here is both. We have a strongly flavored meat in the lamb, and we have some of that fruit sweetness from the dried fruit. There are both turnips and beets. The turnips definitely could have gone in a little bit later. They have almost broken down. The beet, my very first bite had beet in it. The beet still has some bite to it, some chew to it, and also a distinct beet flavor. Yeah, I just fished one out of the pan over there, which I quite like because it's not like strong. It's lost that earthiness to it. It's not massively sweet. The turnips, I think, got overcooked. They could have gone in a little bit later. I'm glad I didn't throw the broccoli in there. That would have been too much. There's too much stuff. Not like too much flavor, just too much stuff. I guess what I've learned is you can kind of do all of the stews at the same time, and they just kind of work because they're all like second cousins to each other. Every culture has a stew because it's such an obvious thing. Put stuff in water, cook until it falls apart, done. And then they develop techniques to refine that. Again, I don't know what to call it. It is somewhere between. It's got a lot more of that sort of spiced sweetness than I was expecting. It's like Christmas lamb curry gumbo. Christmas curry gumbo. I'm going to call it Christmas curry gumbo. I also really am very hungry, and that's why I keep taking bites. So yeah, there you have it. Christmas. I'm not sure what else to say about it. I don't think the cheese enhances it as much as it did the pastasada. I really thought the cheese enhanced that massively. I think the cheese just kind of does its own thing here. It's not offensive, but it's not really contributing a ton. Ooh, I just got a bite with a fig in it. Um, I'm not sure what you would substitute out for the lamb. This wants a strongly flavored protein. Otherwise, the protein will just disappear because you're throwing a lot of other flavors at it. What we've got here is a phenomenon that I am only sort of familiar with. You throw a lot of flavors, and eventually they all kind of balance out. Your tongue can only taste so many things at the same time. So no one thing, like there's enough spices in here. Lamb is a very strong flavor. Spices are very strong flavors. All the fruit is a pretty strong flavor. Beets are a pretty strong flavor, but none of them are able to take the top slot. They're all sort of competing. So they're all in there. You can taste them all, but they're all kind of brought down to the same level. So despite all the stuff we put in here and all the strong flavors, it's kind of just a sort of well-rounded, pleasant eating experience. Everybody is slightly different too, because it's very chunky and we didn't stew it long enough for everything to completely meld together. And the pieces are all big enough that it's really hard to get one of everything in every spoonful. Even though I diced up the fruit. I wish I had diced up the oranges a little bit. I think having these big full rings is excessive. I think if we'd quartered them, they'd be more spread out, and you'd get little bits of orange sometimes in various bites. I'll have to remember that. This needs a real name. I might literally come back and experiment with the same thing, like riff on it, write down amounts. We had a lot of me pouring some into my hand and going, that's about enough, and throwing that in. We might actually do some like base measurements and construct this. It's interesting, and it's not quite like anything I've had, but it's kind of like a bunch of things I've had. It's fun. I'm also very hungry. So before this gets cold, I think I'm gonna take us out. So, thanks for showing up. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for the sub from normal value. Thanks for the follow. I missed that. Thanks for 2 follows. I missed that. I wasn't even looking. They just went right on by. So thanks for the follows. And MJ, you're first. Let's see who's on. Yeah, we're going to raid out. We're going to eat this while it's still nice and warm. Boy, the food recommendations are looking sparse right now. So let's go. We've done food the last few times. Oh, thank you. I didn't get it specifically for Christmas, but I am quite enjoying the old sweater vest. Wow, Alana's been on for 8.5 hours. Yeesh. And she's playing a game called Magical Bakery. That's food themed. And MJ's over there. I see you. um, hey MJ, how much longer is Alana going to be on? Do you think? Do you reckon? Are we looking at a wrap up, or are we looking at a maybe a little bit of time? I'm going to start raid. I'm going to raid us over. It's a game called Magical Bakery. She's been on it for 1,000,000 years. Another in-game day. Okay, well, that'll be plenty of time. Let's go see Alana. Yeah, I know nothing about this game, but Alana is lovely and cooks sometimes, and she's pretty good at it. So that's something. Um, we'll come up with a name for this eventually. It was tasty. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for very fancy right now. Thanks for showing up, sticking with me. Follows, subs, um, etc. Yada, all those things. Yep, copy that message. We'll copy that message. Anyone who's got the message, copy what MJ just dropped off. We're using that one today. And I guess I'll see you around. I'm starting my part-time seasonal work tomorrow, so we will see what the schedule looks like, and I'll fill you guys in when I can fit in streams. Bye.